Faribaugh, and I'm John Lucy. And we are live once again Tuesday around 4 o'clock on YouTube. So get your questions into Nick, who, unlike Aaron Rodgers, was at the start of the Steelers OTAs, organized team activities today. And he certainly has some impressions and takeaways and insights for us. Top of mind for me, and we'll get to these in any order, but I just want to throw some questions out. But then give Nick the floor to sort of just talk about his top impressions. But how about our highly touted first round tackles? They both need to take a major step forward this season, and we'll get the early returns from Nick from his impressions. Another question for me: how much can second-year receiver Roman Wilson help the offense in 2025 after being a total non-factor last season? And of course, how did those QBs look in practice? No, not Aaron Rodgers, but the newly mustachioed Mason Rudolph, who sure looked like the one-time Terry Bradshaw successor, Mark Malone, way back in the 80s. Now, we know how that turned out. He was a Tom Selleck lookalike that never succeeded as a Steelers quarterback. Will Mason fare better as a possible Steelers savior this season if he is called into action? And how about that highly hyped Will Howard? What is his true upside absent all the fan fervor for the 6th round pick? And of course, where does the Steelers go from here in the Aaron Rodgers waiting game? Adam Schefter said today that it could go all the way to the regular season. Say it isn't so. And of course, one of Schefter's colleagues, Jeremy Fowler, says the Steelers are already looking at plan B, that being Kirk Cousins, which to me is another unappetizing option. And we'll get Nick's latest on all that. But right now, Nick, you were there. What really stood out to you? The look and feel of this thing, the players who were physically transformed by the offseason in terms of their workout plans. What caught your eye? Just give us all your best impressions, all your best takeaways.
Yeah, it's interesting because this was a weird vibe for an OTAs practice. It wasn't like last year where you had Russ and Justin, and there's just like all this excitement about getting to see these quarterbacks. And this year it's kind of like, is this even like worth it? Like, are we going to even see even close to the offense we're going to see? I mean, DK Metcalf's not there. If Rodgers signs, obviously, like it's just a weird mix. It's a weird concoction. So it was a weird like thing just hanging over your head, like, weird vibe. But either way, let's talk about some things. First of all, the thing that stuck out to me was the tackles. I think you mentioned that. Seeing Troy Fautano right tackle and Broderick Jones at left tackle. It seems like that is the Steelers' plan this offseason. That is what they're going to do. They are going to put Troy Fautano at right tackle, Broderick Jones at left tackle. Troy Fautano talked to us after practice today. Actually said even though he played left tackle in college, most of his snaps were at left tackle at Washington. He actually prefers right tackle. It's interesting. He hadn't played right tackle since high school. I think he said to us freshman year of high school, so a long time ago, right? And we're talking 9-10 years at this point for him. But he said it's easier. He thinks he's more comfortable there. It's more fluid for him. So I thought that was an interesting takeaway. And he said that last year too, that he thinks it's more comfortable for him. There are some guys that can just flip back and forth like that, and it's really easy for them. Broderick isn't really one of them. He's kind of talked about in the past how he's had some more struggles flipping back and forth. But it seems like Fautanu is not going to be one of them. He looks super fluid. I don't see any clunkiness in his drops. I don't see any clunkiness in his pass sets. So that's interesting. Broderick Jones has shed all of the elbow brace, thumb brace, wrist tape, all of that stuff that we talked about last year when we were talking about all the injuries he'd seemingly racked up before a snap had even been played in the regular season. He looks at least healthy, so we'll see. He didn't talk to us. He had to go do his usual baseline concussion testing. He told us all players have to do that, so we'll get him tomorrow. That'll be a big thing to kind of just see where Broderick's at. One thing that really stood out to me was Beanie Bishop. he is much bigger than he was last year. He's the same playing weight, I think. He just is more muscular. Like that's the big thing. He bulked up a little bit, especially in his lower half. Most of it went to his lower half, not in his upper half. If you see him though, you're like, wow, he's bigger, and that's an interesting thing because he's more explosive now, coming in and out of his breaks, and so I'm interested to see how that manifests itself because he was always a pretty good athlete. To be quite honest with you, I've always thought he was a solid athlete, and so he's really kind of coming into this year with a big opportunity. They drafted Dante Kent in the 7th round. They have other guys there, Sebastian Castro, Deshaun Jameson, that can be threats for him in the slot. I don't think Brandon Echols factors in that. That was another takeaway from today. Not think Brandon Echols is going to factor too much into the slot competition, at least for now, unless things just kind of go off the rails and it goes haywire. I'm not expecting that. So I'm expecting Beanie Bishop. I'm expecting Sebastian Castro. I'm expecting Dante Kent. I'm expecting those guys to be in that slot competition. That's something to watch. In terms of physical makeup, Roman Wilson looks back to where he was before his injury. He looks explosive again. His mindset is that there's a lot of urgency. Obviously, he missed all of last year, so he feels like he's playing a cat and mouse game. He's playing a catch-up game. It's a big year for Roman Wilson. There's no doubt about it. He has to have a big year for the Steelers to be good here. But Robert Woods kind of, coming in as the old Grizzly vet, he's not going to let him get that job very easily, right? I mean, Robert Woods seems pretty motivated too. And so Roman, I think, worked on his routes. He said he worked on his blocking a little bit, worked on kind of keeping that burst in and out of his breaks because he is so explosive. That is the one thing. I remember just seeing him in person last year. I'm like, wow, is he instantly explosive? It's not just, you see a lot of guys that are explosive. For him, it is how fast he is explosive. He gets to his top speed in 2 steps. It's 1-2, boom, he's gone. And I think that's the really interesting thing. His instant explosiveness is a very unique trait. And so you can use him on different routes there. And I think the horizontal routes are going to be, a key thing there. So just some traits I saw there that stuck out to me. Pat Freiermuth seems to be taking on a bigger leadership role from what it looked like on the field, just kind of taking younger guys aside, talking to them a little more. I thought that stuck out. Mason Rudolph, I don't think could care less about the Aaron Rodgers stuff. I really think, this guy is like unfazed by it. He's just been through it before. 2022, he thought he was going to have a legit shot. Had no chance whatsoever. 2023, they bring in Russell Fields. He leaves and goes to Tennessee. So it just felt interesting to me. Like Mason doesn't care. Mm-hmm. And as you kind of mentioned that, he's just kind of taking it day by day. If he starts, great. If he's the backup, he's getting paid $4 million and is one Rodgers injury away from playing. So he seems to be in a really good headspace right now. So there's a few things that kind of stuck out to me before even getting to the on-field workout, which we will talk about, but just some of the physical takeaways I kind of saw here from today.
Interesting. Yeah. And I know that Mason did have an availability with some of the press and, just the tone he struck in terms of talking about, that he feels a good fit in the Arthur Smith offense. He's clearly, a genial guy. Like you said, nothing is going to phase this guy. He's not going to be trying to call his own play, so to speak, and we hear a lot of rumblings that if Rodgers does come in, he could be clashing with Arthur Smith. He could be trying to call his own plays. He's certainly setting a different tone. He's absenting himself from these activities, and possibly he will do the same at mandatory mini camp in early June, and maybe even deep into training camp in Latrobe in late July and August. So a lot of people are looking at it in terms of that's not the Steelers culture. That's not the Steelers way to sort of, carve out special privileges. And even Schefter suggesting that they'd wait right to the regular start of the regular season for Rodgers. That the longer this goes, the harder the fan base, it is for Rodgers to win the fan base. I mean, you give any credence to that?
I mean, so let's talk about this Aaron Rodgers situation because it is all over the map. Listen, I think him not coming to OTAs should start to at least ring some alarms for the Steelers, right? They've had this open conduit of communication since his free agency period started. They've talked to him, they've given him ample time. But we're at the point now where plan Bs have to start to come into consideration. They're going into training camp with 4 quarterbacks, regardless. So they're signing somebody. If Rodgers doesn't sign before training camp, they're going to trade or sign for somebody, whether that's Carson Wentz, whether that's a Tyler Huntley, whether that is Kirk Cousins, whoever. None of these names sound appealing because they aren't. The market is bare, dry. All the guys are gone. So Rodgers is the best quarterback available. The Steelers are courting the best quarterback available. If they don't go after any of those guys, right? If they don't go after a Cousins and they don't want to trade draft capital, because that's a really kind of convoluted scenario, right, John? He's certainly on their radar. They've talked about it. They've kind of called to gauge things, but we're talking about staggering amounts of money you have to take on. And if you want Atlanta to take on that money, you have to trade them a higher draft pick.
Oh, right.
I mean, we're talking about if the Steelers want them to take on a significant amount of money, probably giving up one of their 3rd-round picks. Just not going to happen for Kirk Cousins. For what, 1 or 2 more winning games? Maybe. Like, Kirk Cousins down the stretch last year was bad. He turned the ball over. He had 16 interceptions. It was rough. And so there's a lot there to ring alarm bells for you. And so Rodgers is the best player available. And so here's the thing. If they let this soak out and they say, you know what, we're just going to sign some vet that is clearly not the answer. Let's say they sign Tyler Huntley, right? Not the answer at all. Yes, does he have starting experience? Sure. But Mason Rudolph is like on the train to start at that point. Unless Aaron Rodgers comes before training camp and says, okay, I'm going to sign here or whenever. That, to me, speaks volumes about their thoughts about Mason. Like, right? They've been saying that they are confident in Mason Rudolph. Well, show it, right? Because if you're courting a 41-year-old 4-time MVP that played probably his worst year of football in his career last year, are you really confident in Mason Rudolph? Well, I guess if you let it ride out and you're not pursuing other options, sure, you could be. So we'll see. But right now, they got to set. If I am the Steelers, I am telling Aaron Rodgers, we got to have a decision by X date. Okay. It's either the day, right before mandatory minicamp, even if he doesn't want to sign for mandatory minicamp. If he just tells the Steelers, hey, I'll sign with you guys before training camp. I don't really want to go to mandatory minicamp. I don't know. I have a trip planned to Brazil or something, whatever, right? Because he had a trip planned to Egypt. If he doesn't want to show up, fine. But you need to have that answer, right? If he says on June 9th before mandatory minicamp, he says, listen, I don't want to be there, but I'll sign with you guys before training camp. Done. But if he can't give you that assurance, you got to start looking at plan Bs. You got to start looking at these different scenarios. So the Steelers are really in the deep water here with Rodgers. They've let it wait this long. They clearly weren't enthused by other options at the prices they went for in Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, and those. They didn't want to pay Justin Fields the money he got. They didn't want to pay Sam Darnold the money he got. They didn't want to guarantee those guys starting jobs, beyond this year. Like, that was a big reason why they didn't land either of those players. They didn't want Russell Wilson back. We talked about that. So it just kind of all leads to this point. And so it leads to me, while they won't say it publicly, John, they have this half in, half out mentality that we've talked about all offseason. It leads me to believe the Steelers internally are looking at this far more as a transitional year than you might believe.
Okay. No, that's interesting. And we do have a viewer question I'm going to get to next, but I do want to close the loop on this discussion about the quarterbacks with something from Mark Madden. He's the radio host out in Pittsburgh. He's an agent provocateur. He likes to ruffle the feathers of lots of fans. And, he was painting the scenario of Rodgers coming in late or at the last minute, and fans being dubious about his level of commitment. And he paints the scenario this way for what could happen if Rodgers comes in late, doesn't have the the liking of the fans. Quote, I bet the fans in Pittsburgh turn on Rodgers pretty quickly. And what makes this story even better is that when they turn on Rodgers, they're not going to want Mason Rudolph to play. They're going to want Will Howard, the rookie. Put the kid in. Let's see what he can do, unquote. What do you think of that crazy scenario for how this 2025 season could unfold at the quarterback position?
Is it that crazy? You know what I mean? I mean, if Rudolph is the starter, I think there's easily going to be a stretch of probably mediocre performances on offense. So where, yeah, we could see Will Howard. I mean, that's not crazy. But I just think this quarterback situation this year it's just a leap of like 1 year, right? Like that's the thing. We know what their plan is. They want to get somebody from 2026. And if Will Howard can maybe prove to be something, great. If he doesn't, we'll see. I will say, and this is where I'll start to get into kind of OTAs practice. Today it's one day. Did not love how Will Howard looked today. First NFL practice for a quarterback, though. That is a really hard thing. A lot of rookie quarterbacks in like first few practices, things just move so fast, right? Even when you're like third string or second string, this is just a different animal. The stars from everywhere are in the same spot. Even if you play in the national championship game like Will Howard, it is a different level of speed. And so I'm interested to see how he grows. Not a great first day, but we'll see how it goes. That's really the perspective everybody has to have. Like Rodgers is a 1 year like stopgap. They trade for Cousins, he's a 1 year stopgap. Mason Rudolph is a 1 year bridge quarterback. Like that's all 1 year. The reason Justin Fields isn't here right now, outside of them not ponying up the money to get him, is that he wanted 2 years of kind of guaranteed starting ability. Or at least getting the guaranteed money where he could pocket big change. And the Jets gave him both. The Steelers were not going to give him past 1 year. Sam Darnold, same thing. They couldn't say in 2026 you're going to be the guy. Why? The Steelers want to get the guy next April. That's why. So always keep that in mind. So we'll see this year. The quarterback situation this year is a mess. We'll see if when it gets kind of sorted out who it is. I'm still expecting it. I know we're talking about this right now and the questions that are coming up. Everything I've heard from inside the organization tells me they still expect this to be Aaron Rodgers. So I'm still saying that. I think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. If something changes, we'll see. But right now, the Steelers quarterback situation is in limbo, and that makes OTAs very odd. It is. Usually OTAs is like interesting because last year Fields and Russ were both there, but them not being, Rodgers not being here, it makes it a little interesting. It really does.
No, good analysis, and that look and feel of how you describe, this OTA is kind of interesting with this looming cloud and question mark at quarterback. But we're going to some viewer questions. We got Yager, who has a provocative question about the defense. Who has worse hands, Joey Porter or Patrick Queen?
Good question, I guess. I don't know. Probably. I don't think Joey has great hands. It's not really been Joey's thing. It's probably Joey. PQ has, at least when I see him in practice, PQ has good hands. Sometimes PQ just, unfortunately, PQ can lose concentration on the football. So I'm not sure it's PQ's hands. It's PQ's hand-eye coordination. So I'd say JPJ.
All right. And we have another question. In terms of your impression of the physicality of Rock Taylor, did he catch any passes? How tall is he? And is he 6'3" or 6'1"? I mean, what's his physical presence
like? Let me get this up right now. I have the pro day results for Rock Taylor. I'll tell you exactly what he measured in at. Rock Taylor measured in at 6'1" and 5/8. So little bit. So he's pretty tall. He's not 6'2". He's not 6'3". He's 6'1" at 5/8 and 212 pounds. So I mean that's a big receiver. Regardless, that's an X receiver. Didn't run the 40 at his pro day. Did the rest of the drills there. Here's the thing, guys. Rock Taylor's was not on the field today. I don't know why. If you look in the videos, you'll not see number 81, which is him. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if it was, something maybe personal popped up. Just letting you know, obviously they didn't waive injure him or anything like that. So I thought he looked interesting in rookie minicamp. I think he's definitely an X type of receiver. He's a big dude that is imposing, but we'll see. Hopefully he's there tomorrow and we can see. I didn't even see him, period. So leads me to believe maybe it was a personal thing and something just popped up. So we'll see. But first day of takeaways, nothing there in Rock Hill because he wasn't here from what I saw.
Well, that's a good reason not to have a takeaway. Now, another receiver was announced today, and he has a really kind of commanding name, Montana Lamonius Craig. Is he the wide receiver signing that we were waiting for, or is this just going to be a camp curiosity?
I mean, it might be linked to Taylor. I think the two might be directly linked potentially. No DK Metcalf. They just need numbers to run. Like, that's an interesting thing that they need. I will say the first time I heard Montana Lamonius Craig, I said that is the guy out of the Key and Peele sketch. You know, when they are naming, Jack Mary's Tactics and all those guys. He could fit in right there. Montana Lamonius Craig. He fits in perfectly. Great name. Special teamer. He's a bigger receiver too. He's 6'1". So he's a big outside receiver. He plays special teams. Gunner is a big thing for him. Gunner, he plays also on kick and punt teams. So something to note there. The Steelers always have one of these like special teamer type wide receivers. They have two of them this year because I think Benny Skowronek also fits that mold. But the Steelers are kind of interesting there where they fit the mold. But I don't think he's going to be anything outside of, a signing right now. But we'll see. Maybe he can make a name for himself. Sometimes, these guys pop in and really do show out. You never know. I remember that happened with Trenton Thompson a few years ago. He was signed due to injuries, and he came and became a real piece. Obviously, he ended up playing some real games for them. Unfortunate neck injury ending his career. But the Steelers do look out for those guys. So we'll see. But this is an opportunity for him. He was a rookie minicamp tryout. So this is not like the signing that everyone's been waiting for. It's not Keenan Allen. It's not Amari Cooper. It's not DJ Chark. It's not Gabe Davis. It's just kind of one of these guys they're bringing in. But we'll see if they make a signing there. I think they're going to explore that market. But as I've said before on the show, I think we are probably going to see that closer to the cut down day than we are right now.
Speaking of signing, we know TJ Watt is bucking for a new contract. We know that the market was reset when Myles Garrett signed. We know that some other notable signings are upcoming at that same position, probably sooner rather than later. Obviously, down in Dallas, a big name from Harrisburg could be inked soon. What's this? And we know Watt wasn't there, at this OTA today. So what's looming for him? And are we going to just not see a lot of him until ink is on paper, or what's the plan for Watt?
I mean, that's my guess. Listen, him being absent today isn't really out of the realm of normalcy for him. I think he was there for the first 2 or so days last year and then didn't really show up for much of the rest of them. So not necessarily sure this is contract related. It could be, but it's kind of TJ's routine. So we'll see if he pops up next week. If he is there, I mean, I'm kind of expecting him to do the hold in stuff, to be quite honest with you, until this stuff is fully done. He's no reason to risk it. They're obviously talking. I mean, that's fairly obvious. Now they need to get ahead of this because Aiden Hutchinson just got cleared from his leg injury, broke his tibia. And then Micah Parsons, obviously, is, as you mentioned, down the pipe as well. These are two really big contracts. Trey Hendrickson with the Bengals, who knows what's happening there? That is at a complete impasse. They can't even sign Shamar Stewart, their rookie, right now. So a lot of issues there in Cincinnati. But what I'm trying to say is there are 3 premier edge rushers besides Watt that are kind of jockeying for a big role in a big new contract. And so none of them want to be the first ones to sign the deal. So in order to get it, you're going to have to sweeten that pot, whether that's with more guarantees or whatever. But Hutchinson can sign for $41 million tomorrow, and all of a sudden you could have maybe gotten TJ for 40 to equal Garrett, and now you got to equal Aiden Hutchinson. And then Parsons is going to get 42, and then you got to pay more, right? All of this is just popping up more and more. And TJ Watt is going to view himself as a top edge rusher in the NFL, even though he's 31, coming off one of his worst seasons as a pro. He's going to view him that way. And so the Steelers need to be very careful about what they do here. Last year they could afford to wait with Pat Freiermuth and Cam Hayward. None of those were going to set the market. Deontay Johnson wasn't going to set the market Minka Fitzpatrick setting the market. I mean, he reset the market, but that was a pretty easy deal at the time. TJ Watt, that one last time lasted until the week of the regular season game. And then obviously he had a great year in 2021 anyway. So he doesn't necessarily need the full ramp up. But TJ Watt needs, to get signed sooner rather than later. That's what I would do. Whether it's on OTAs or in that big gap between mini camp and training camp, I would try and get this done. Not only do you have one of your active leaders then around, but you also have him before Micah Parsons, before Aiden Hutchinson, before the guy, Trey Hendrickson. I just think that's really important. They should have gotten ahead of Myles Garrett. I think that was a mistake, right? They could have probably gotten TJ for, 36, 37 a year. They had just topped what Max Crosby had gotten. They probably could have signed him for that. Now he's going to want more money. So the as they say, yesterday's price is not today's price. And so that's what's going to happen. The more and more guys get paid. And so the Steelers need to get out ahead of this. They need to be proactive. There's nothing holding them back from it. Not only actually would doing it get ahead of that, it would save them cap space. So if they ever, I don't know what the Aaron Rodgers figures would come in at, but certainly if they wanted to sign a receiver like Keenan Allen or whatever, that would help the cause, right? It would help clear up more cap space. So we'll see. This is going to happen, I think, probably no matter what. I don't expect any drama here in terms of like, are they going to trade him? Or are they going to do it? No, they're not. It just depends on when this gets done. It's going to get done. It just depends when.
Well, and you mentioned the discount. I mean, his broadcaster brother said as much, that he was willing to give a hometown discount, maybe a year ago. And he's since had a baby, and he's looking at generational wealth, for his family. That kind of those are considerations, obviously. Like you said, you mentioned the age at 31, and you mentioned the comparison contracts that are looming with Parsons and Hutchinson. But those guys, even though Hutchinson's coming off that devastating injury, are sort of younger guys in their prime, going for their second deal. Watt's 31 and going for his third deal. Does that make a difference? And do the Steelers have any bargaining power to make him take an age discount on this contract or not?
I don't think they do. And here's the thing. I mean, he's 31. It's not like he's 35, right? I think that's the key thing. We have seen edge rushers his age be really good into their early to mid 30s. Like, it's happened with Hall of Fame level guys. And so he can point to those guys and say, listen, why would I sign a deal less than that? And all you're going to do is push this back more and more, right? And so that's really what ends up happening with that. And so they don't have a ton of leverage here. Now, I guess you could put the average per year down more if you guaranteed more of it. I guess that's the case. What's the ideal contract coming out to be, though? I mean, we're talking probably 3 years, 40 per year. I mean, we're talking probably 120. So you're probably going to have to guarantee how much of that. I mean, Myles Garrett got signed for 160 and got 123 million guaranteed. 3 of the years are guaranteed for Myles Garrett. So for TJ, I mean, you're probably talking at least 85, 90 of that, at least. It's a lot of money. So the Steelers are probably going to do that, though. And so we'll see. TJ, though, and I talked about this in a video last week. If you guys didn't watch it, you should watch it. He's going to have to rework his game because he's a speed rusher. He is a unique blend of speed and what he does. The way he wins his cross chop, his ghost move, his dip and rip, it's all speed-based. It's because he's got great explosiveness as the first step. He's got great ability to bend around the edge. That's what TJ has always made his money on. But as you get older, obviously you lose some of that. So we're going to have to see some power come into his game, some more of a deeper bag, if you will, of his pass rush moves, which he has because he's used them before. I know he has them. He's just relied on the speed because he's so good at it. So we're probably going to see a different type of pass rusher in TJ Watt. He's going to be a different player, but TJ this year, I'm fairly interested to see kind of how he comes back. Actually, I'm very excited to watch TJ play this year because I think he's going to look a little different than what we kind of see him usually. We might see a bulkier version of TJ. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that, just add some more power to his game. So I do think TJ Watt this year probably going to reinvent the wheel a little bit. And how he usually wins. The power is probably going to pop out a little more. He's probably going to move around a little bit more. That's something he really wanted to do at the end of last year was, move over to the center, maybe switch sides with Highsmith. We're probably going to see that a little more this year. So that's something to keep an eye on. So we'll see. But there's risk involved for the Steelers in this deal. There's no question about it. He doesn't find that power or that extra bag. He could definitely fall off in the middle of this deal, and that could be an albatross contract. But it's going to happen. He's a franchise legend. It's going to happen.
Well, and we noticed the stats. He was kind of a non-factor down the stretch of last season, even, and that led to him talking about moving around more. But I love your impression that he could add another wrinkle, add bulk, add power. I mean, I would love to see that as well. I mean, and I do think there's a certain amount of pride here. I mean, obviously he's putting a line in the sand on this contract. But he has the pride that is going to want to earn that contract once he does put ink on paper. And I love the idea of just motivating the hell out of him to up that game and make allowances for Father Time. I think that's great analysis. And I think, I can't wait to see your impressions once he unveils, once he gets the business part out of the way and unveils the 2025 version of TJ Watt. That will be worth the price of admission for sure.
Yeah, it will. So that's something to keep an eye on. I mean, they have a deeper edge rusher room with Sawyer now, so they can rotate him a little more theoretically. Herbig's in his third year. He's still a really good player. So there's a lot that they can do to help TJ out, but TJ's going to have to help TJ out a little bit too. So going to have to move around. They're going to have to get him kind of in more advantageous situations. I think the burst is still there, but it's not maybe quite as elite as it once was. So we're going to probably see a different DJ Watt. And I think that's not a bad thing. I think it's potentially a really good thing. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he goes for 18 sacks this year. I would not be surprised. I think we're probably going to see TJ kind of hitting the river of youth a little bit here.
Awesome. And speaking of the river of youth, I want to go back and go full circle on what we were talking about before, about how pretty much 2025, the quarterback matters, but it kind of doesn't matter. It's all about 2026. And there was an interesting report in SteelersNation.com talking about, what Arch Manning may or may not do in 2026. He may stay in another year and not be eligible for the draft in 2026. And they were making it seem that really would put a crimp in the Steelers' plans to sort of going all in on the 2026 draft for their franchise QB. I mean, how much, of the fallout of an Arch Manning remaining in college, how much of an issue would that be for the NFL and the Steelers, if he decides that that's his best for him?
Well, I mean, I think right now in most people's eyes, he's the QB1. So that pushes options up the board. That would probably hurt the Steelers because, listen, unless the Steelers completely just bottom out and are the first overall pick or earlier, that is probably going to hurt them. I don't really think they have a realistic chance of getting Arch Manning. I think we would agree on that, right? Probably not going to be the first overall pick. It feels like even though he's only taken 100 throws in his career, the NFL's already projecting him based off bloodline, pedigree, all of that. And the admittedly small sample size we have seen of him looks like that type of prospect. He looks really good, but we'll see how it plays out over a full season. So that would probably hurt the Steelers. It would push up, Lenore Sellers and Cade Klubnik and Fernando Mendoza and Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier. It would push up those types. And the Steelers really need this to be a really deep group. They need it to be a 2024 type of group, right? Where you had the top three go, but then you had still after that you had the McCarthy, Penix, Nix tier. That's where the Steelers are probably playing in this. You got to understand they're probably not playing in the waters that were Williams, Daniels, May. So we'll see where all that kind of plays out. But Arch going back to school would legitimately push them up the board. So you'd have to trade up further, you have to trade more, draft capital, all of that factors into that.
Mm-hmm. Well, those are obviously worries for another day, but 2026 is going to be interesting in so many different ways. But of course, we're still in 2025. Nick's going to be hanging out at OTAs, and he'll be doing podcasts as he gets more to report on. And we'll be back here next Tuesday for the full show, where we'll be live on YouTube, taking questions and picking Nick's brain as we always do. So until then, go Steelers.